Hola, soy Hugo Villegas. Por sugerencia de algunos de los asistentes a las conferencias de rango dinámico, hacemos este taller de aplicación práctica. Estructura de ganancia para mezcla. En este taller contestaremos preguntas frecuentes como ¿cuál debe ser mi atenuación inicial para comenzar la mezcla? ¿Cómo logro que mis procesadores dinámicos funcionen de manera óptima? ¿Cómo establecer relaciones de atenuación para que todo suene claramente? ¿Cómo determinar el headroom de la mezcla desde el principio? Hablaremos sobre algunos parámetros que permiten saber cuándo vamos bien y cuándo no, independientemente de los lineamientos artísticos que el productor o el artista hayan determinado. Acompáñanos. Más información con la Escuela de Música Fernando Sor. Hola, soy Hugo Villegas. Por sugerencia de algunos de los asistentes a las conferencias de rango dinámico, hacemos este taller de aplicación práctica. Estructura de ganancia para mezcla. En este taller contestaremos preguntas frecuentes como ¿cuál debe ser mi atenuación inicial para comenzar la mezcla? ¿Cómo logro que mis procesadores dinámicos funcionen de manera óptima? ¿Cómo establecer relaciones de atenuación para que todo suene claramente? ¿Cómo determinar el headroom de la mezcla desde el principio? Hablaremos sobre algunos parámetros que permiten saber cuándo vamos bien y cuándo no, independientemente de los lineamientos artísticos que el productor o el artista hayan determinado. Acompáñanos. Más información con la Escuela de Música Fernando Sor. Hola, soy Hugo Villegas. Por sugerencia de algunos de los asistentes a las conferencias de rango dinámico, hacemos este taller de aplicación práctica. Estructura de ganancia para mezcla. En este taller contestaremos preguntas frecuentes como ¿cuál debe ser mi atenuación inicial para comenzar la mezcla? ¿Cómo logro que mis procesadores dinámicos funcionen de manera óptima? ¿Cómo establecer relaciones de atenuación para que todo suene claramente? ¿Cómo determinar el headroom de la mezcla desde el principio? Hablaremos sobre algunos parámetros que permiten saber cuándo vamos bien y cuándo no, independientemente de los lineamientos artísticos que el productor o el artista hayan determinado. Acompáñanos. Más información con la Escuela de Música Fernando Sor. Hola, soy Hugo Villegas. Por sugerencia de algunos de los asistentes a las conferencias de rango dinámico, hacemos este taller de aplicación práctica. Estructura de ganancia para mezcla. En este taller contestaremos preguntas frecuentes como ¿cuál debe ser mi atenuación inicial para comenzar la mezcla? ¿Cómo logro que mis procesadores dinámicos funcionen de manera óptima? ¿Cómo establecer relaciones de atenuación para que todo suene claramente? ¿Cómo determinar el headroom de la mezcla desde el principio? Hablaremos sobre algunos parámetros que permiten saber cuándo vamos bien y cuándo no, independientemente de los lineamientos artísticos que el productor o el artista hayan determinado. Acompáñanos. Más información con la Escuela de Música Fernando Sor. Hola, soy Hugo Villegas. Por sugerencia de algunos de los asistentes a las conferencias de rango dinámico, hacemos este taller de aplicación práctica. Estructura de ganancia para mezcla. En este taller contestaremos preguntas frecuentes como ¿cuál debe ser mi atenuación inicial para comenzar la mezcla? ¿Cómo logro que mis procesadores dinámicos funcionen de manera óptima? ¿Cómo establecer relaciones de atenuación para que todo suene claramente? ¿Cómo determinar el headroom de la mezcla desde el principio? Hablaremos sobre algunos parámetros que permiten saber cuándo vamos bien y cuándo no, independientemente de los lineamientos artísticos que el productor o el artista hayan determinado. Acompáñanos. Más información con la Escuela de Música Fernando Sor. Hola, soy Hugo Villegas. Por sugerencia de algunos de los asistentes a las conferencias de rango dinámico, hacemos este taller de aplicación práctica. Estructura de ganancia para mezcla. En este taller contestaremos preguntas frecuentes como ¿cuál debe ser mi atenuación inicial para comenzar la mezcla? ¿Cómo logro que mis procesadores dinámicos funcionen de manera óptima? ¿Cómo establecer relaciones de atenuación para que todo suene claramente? ¿Cómo determinar el headroom de la mezcla desde el principio? Hablaremos sobre algunos parámetros que permiten saber cuándo vamos bien y cuándo no, independientemente de los lineamientos artísticos que el productor o el artista hayan determinado. Acompáñanos. Más información con la Escuela de Música Fernando Sor. Hola, soy Hugo Villegas. Por sugerencia de algunos de los asistentes a las conferencias de rango dinámico, hacemos este taller de aplicación práctica. Estructura de ganancia para mezcla. En este taller contestaremos preguntas frecuentes como ¿cuál debe ser mi atenuación inicial para comenzar la mezcla? ¿Cómo logro que mis procesadores dinámicos funcionen de manera óptima? ¿Cómo establecer relaciones de atenuación para que todo suene claramente? ¿Cómo determinar el headroom de la mezcla desde el principio? Hablaremos sobre algunos parámetros que permiten saber cuándo vamos bien y cuándo no, independientemente de los lineamientos artísticos que el productor o el artista hayan determinado. Acompáñanos. Más información con la Escuela de Música Fernando Sor. Hola, soy Hugo Villegas. Por sugerencia de algunos de los asistentes a las conferencias de rango dinámico, hacemos este taller de aplicación práctica. Estructura de ganancia para mezcla. En este taller contestaremos preguntas frecuentes como ¿cuál debe ser mi atenuación inicial para comenzar la mezcla? ¿Cómo logro que mis procesadores dinámicos funcionen de manera óptima? ¿Cómo establecer relaciones de atenuación para que todo suene claramente? ¿Cómo determinar el headroom de la mezcla desde el principio? Hablaremos sobre algunos parámetros que permiten saber cuándo vamos bien y cuándo no, independientemente de los lineamientos artísticos que el productor o el artista hayan determinado. Acompáñanos. Más información con la Escuela de Música Fernando Sor. Hola, soy Hugo Villegas. Por sugerencia de algunos de los asistentes a las conferencias de rango dinámico, hacemos este taller de aplicación práctica. Estructura de ganancia para mezcla. En este taller contestaremos preguntas frecuentes como ¿cuál debe ser mi atenuación inicial para comenzar la mezcla? ¿Cómo logro que mis procesadores dinámicos funcionen de manera óptima? ¿Cómo establecer relaciones de atenuación para que todo suene claramente? ¿Cómo determinar el headroom de la mezcla desde el principio? Hablaremos sobre algunos parámetros que permiten saber cuándo vamos bien y cuándo no, independientemente de los lineamientos artísticos que el productor o el artista hayan determinado. Acompáñanos. Más información con la Escuela de Música Fernando Sor.
Hola, soy Harold Julián Villamizar Ramírez, soy músico, soy trombonista, soy percusionista, soy compositor, soy arreglista. También he trabajado como docente en la Universidad de Pamplona, en donde tuve mi formación académica. También estudié en la Fernando Sor Producción Musical y actualmente curso una maestría en composición en la Universidad de La Rioja. También he tenido el chance de trabajar con grandes artistas como el maestro Boni Cepeda, con quien gané el Congo de Oro en categoría merengue en el año 2012. También he dirigido mis propios proyectos y he hecho mis producciones propias. Lo que quiero brindarles en este taller es mi experiencia y algo que he descubierto a través del tiempo y del quehacer en la música. Muchas veces nos fijamos mucho en la teoría, demasiado centrados en la teoría y nos olvidamos de que la música es una emoción, son sensaciones y tiene gran parte psicológica cuando se produce, cuando se escucha. Entonces casi que siempre vemos la música solamente en dos ejes, que es el eje Y, que es entonces la armonía, el eje X, que es la melodía y el ritmo, pero nos olvidamos del eje Z, que es ese que nos da la profundidad de la música, donde está la sensación, los sentimientos. Si logramos dominar este concepto a través de las curvas de energía, que es el concepto que quiero enseñarles a ustedes, vamos a lograr dominar el proceso de creación y vamos a poder lograr que el oyente sienta lo que nosotros estamos pensando que quiere que sienta, así que se sienta triste, que se sienta alegre, o crear diversos sentimientos. No dejar que la música nos domine a nosotros cuando la creamos, sino nosotros dominar la música cuando hacemos la creación. Entonces es un taller demasiado interesante, es un método que está creciendo actualmente, no solamente acá conmigo, sino en Estados Unidos y a nivel mundial, y sirve para cualquier tipo de música, porque estamos hablando de una cosa que es universal a todos los géneros, no solamente si es metal, o si es reggae, o si es ska, o si es merengue, no, estamos hablando de energía, la música siempre se compone de energía. Entonces en este taller les quiero brindar la posibilidad de cómo entender, analizar y manejar la energía para voluntad propia de nuestra propia creación musical. Es todo lo que quiero brindarles en este taller. Los espero allá, que se inscriban, va a estar súper interesante. Bye.
La Escuela de Música y Audio Fernando Sor los invita a inscribirse a nuestros cursos libres que iniciarán este 26 de septiembre. Contamos con cursos para niños, jóvenes y adultos en los programas Interpretación instrumental en el instrumento que elijas, producción musical para escribir tu música con tus propios arreglos y efectos, y un segundo paso para grabar y mezclar tus composiciones. DJ y música electrónica está orientado para formarte como músico productor en todas las tendencias modernas. Y en nuestro programa de música clásica, al matricularte a violín o viola, recibirás tu instrumento Verona totalmente gratis. Para mayor información ingresa a nuestro sitio web www.fernandosor.edu.co o a nuestro número de teléfono 316-428-4208.
In this video, I'm going to walk you through how to master a song from start to finish using Ozone 9 and the updated tonal balance control. And while there are many approaches that can be taken to mastering a song, what we'll share today represents some of the most common steps to getting a great sound. Feel free to download a free trial of Ozone from iZotope.com and follow along. For this example, I'm going to be working from within a digital audio workstation, but you can use the standalone version of Ozone 9 if you prefer. As you can see, I've already imported the track we'll be working with. It's called Might Be Right by White Reaper, and I've got Ozone 9 as the first plugin on my master bus, and after that is Tonal Balance Control. Tonal Balance Control is a metering tool that shows you the health of your tonal balance, which is the distribution of energy from low to high frequency content. I can resize it just like I can resize Ozone 9. Tonal Balance Control also allows you to see how your track stacks up against reference targets that iZotope created from analyzing thousands of amazing masters. And you can upload your own favorite tracks or whole groups of tracks, allowing you to match against custom targets from your favorite references. If you notice a deficit or abundance of energy in the lows, low mids, high mids, or highs, you can address it by remote controlling Ozone 9's EQ and output gain thanks to a protocol called interplugin communication. You can also remote control Nectar, Neutron, and Relay. Getting started mastering your project can be a daunting task. Do you EQ first, or do you start compressing? In what order should those modules be? Do you need to do any special processing because you'll be uploading your track to a streaming service? To give you a push in a helpful direction, we created Master Assistant. Through machine learning, Master Assistant is designed to give you a starting point that's intelligently tailored to your music, to help you create a professional sounding master regardless of your experience level. To get started, click on Master Assistant to adjust the Master Assistant settings. Choose from the settings the vibe, loudness, and delivery options that you're going for. I'm going to go for a modern vibe, but vintage is a new option in Ozone 9 that will deploy the vintage compressor, vintage EQ, and vintage limiter to give your track a warm, analog, gritty sound. Next, I'm going to choose my loudness. We have 3 options which result in different integrated loudness targets. If I choose low, I'll aim to make the overall level of my master minus 14 LUFS. At medium, minus 12 LUFS, and at high, it'll set the overall level to minus 11 LUFS. I'll go for medium. But if I wanted to, I could load a reference by clicking here, and Ozone 9 will impose the EQ profile and overall loudness of the reference onto my track, which is pretty handy. Next, we have destination. Streaming and CD are the options for you. Choosing streaming will ensure that the threshold ceiling on the maximizer will be minus 1 dB. If you choose CD, it'll set the ceiling threshold to minus 0.3 dB. I'm going to go with streaming. I'll get a loop going of a particularly energetic portion of the track, and now I'll press next to get the process started. As you can see, Master Assistant tells you exactly what it's doing as it does it. When Master Assistant is finished, you can either accept or cancel the changes. With loudness and basic EQ settings in place, I'm noticing that my drums are a little quiet compared to the guitars, vocals, and bass. If I had the mix session open, I could easily reach for the drum channel and turn up the kit, but with only a stereo track, our options are limited. Luckily, with Master Rebalance, I can reach into the stereo mix without the individual drum tracks and boost the kit with one fader. I'll open up Master Rebalance and place it prior to any other processing so that processing upstream will be affecting it, essentially simulating a mix that had a healthy drum level all along. You can place Master Rebalance anywhere you like in your chain, though we'd recommend ensuring that it's at least in front of the maximizer to protect against any gain going above the threshold, which might lead to unwanted clipping or distortion. From here, it's as easy as boosting the drums gain until we're happy with the level. You'll notice how the kick comes up, but the bass guitar doesn't. The machine learning technology powering this module ensures clean identification and separation of those track elements, so only the source that you want will be boosted or attenuated. Let's do some before and afters. From here, I'd like to add articulation and clarity to the overall low end. using a new module we have called low-end focus. The low-end signal can be quite complex, with lots of instruments dwelling in this space, making the overall tone of your low-end blurry and unfocused. I'll place it just before our multiband compressor called the Dynamics module. This will make sure that processing performed by low-end focus will be properly framed and controlled for via the compressor and dynamic EQ modules ahead of it. Low-end focus can help to add definition to the low end by emphasizing the most prominent frequencies in the signal from 20 to 300 Hz and de-emphasizing less prominent frequencies as you move the bipolar slider toward positive values. Bring the slider down and you'll decrease the contrast between prominent and less prominent frequencies. And there's two modes, punchy and smooth. Use punchy if you're aiming for an aggressive, exaggerated low end, and use smooth for a more subtle, rich-sounding sharpening of your low end. I'm going to use smooth and bring my contrast slider up until I'm happy with the sound. I'll also increase the gain if needed. This parameter is essentially a makeup gain slider. Let's do some before and afters. The final stop is the imager. Ozone's imager module allows you to adjust the stereo width of your mix using multiband stereo imaging. Stereo imaging, when applied with a light touch, can help your master breathe and give it an impactful, wide, panoramic quality. There's also a new mode in the imager called Mode 2. This is a newly developed alternative to the classic stereoize mode, which offers a slightly different tonal quality and helps to preserve transients at higher settings. I'm first going to divide the track into 3 separate bands so that I can widen some aspects of the mix more or less than others. I'll do that by clicking here. Now let's engage Mode 2, and I'll bring up the stereoize amount. This slider adds natural sounding stereo width to narrow recordings and controls the character of the stereo effect in conjunction with the width sliders. I'll bring up the mid-range slider and the highs as well. I'm going to power off the low band, preventing the stereoizer from affecting signal here, because I'd like the low end to stay at its current width. Now let's see how far we've come by doing a global bypass with gain match on. By enabling gain match, we'll be able to hear just the effect of the modules so that we have a complete picture of the sound each module is impacting on our track without the loudness shifting up and down as we bypass and unbypass. Let's do one without gain match enabled as well. Now let's check this master against tonal balance control, which is on my master bus just after Ozone 9. I'll reference it against the rock target. This reference target is one of many that was added to the newly updated version of tonal balance control. As you can see, our lines are well within the healthy ranges for low, low mid, high mid, and high. We even have a fine view if you prefer to analyze the energy this way. But if we wanted to correct an unhealthy shift in energy in, say, the lows, we can call up Ozone 9's EQ thanks to interplugin communication and make an EQ mastering move to suppress energy in that region, leaving us with a more well-balanced master overall. To share your master with the world, export the master track at the highest fidelity possible using tools in your digital audio workstation or by selecting Export Audio Files from the File menu if you're using Ozone as a standalone application. And be sure to check the mix across a few different playback systems, like in a car and over headphones, and make adjustments as needed. But remember, the verification of a healthy distribution of energy that we did in tonal balance control will go a long way in making sure that your master will translate well no matter where the audience will be enjoying your song. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to check out our other videos and head to iZotope.com to learn more about mixing and mastering. Take care. Getting your mix or master to sit just right across the frequency spectrum, meaning we can clearly make out all the track elements from low frequency content like bass and kick to high frequency content like cymbals and hi-hats, can be a difficult task, not to mention the hard work that goes into ensuring that your mix or master will translate well across a variety of playback systems. Tonal balance control was created to make this process more achievable for everyone. Tonal balance control displays spectrum metering information for the track it's currently inserted on relative to a reference target curve. This is particularly useful when dealing with tonal balance issues that arise during mixing and mastering. This tool can help provide context and direction toward resolving issues with a mix or master lacking low-end power or the high-end brilliance found in professionally produced radio-ready material. For customers familiar with version 1 of Tonal Balance Control, this new generation features a number of exciting changes, like the all-new genre-specific targets you can reference against, a completely resizable interface, per-band soloing, control of the EQ profile and output gain of iZotope plugins like Nectar, Neutron, and Ozone, and now the ability to communicate with Relay, allowing you to change the output gain of the track or group of tracks that Relay is placed on. Let's dig into how and when to use tonal balance control in your next mix or master. First of all, we highly recommend that tonal balance control is inserted at the end of the processing chain on your master bus track. This ensures that the spectrum curve you are comparing to the currently selected target curve is after all the other processing in your session, and that adjustments made to Neutron or Ozone EQ instances will affect the spectrum curve displayed in tonal balance control. I'm going to place my tonal balance control here at the end of my master bus after Ozone 9. Now I'll choose a reference target that best corresponds to my session's vibe. These reference targets were created here at iZotope upon analyzing thousands and thousands of incredible masters and noting commonalities they shared in overall distribution of energy from low, low-mid, high-mid, and high-frequency content. In this case, we're working on a pop track, so I'm going to choose the pop target reference. However, if there's a reference song that you love, you can load it into tonal balance control and the plugin will generate a curve that's representative of the energy profile of that reference track. You can even load a whole folder of songs to create a composite curve. Let's loop the track at a particularly heavy part of the arrangement. Now let's play the track back and see what the meters are telling us about the health of the tonal balance in this mix. First, I'm noticing two things. I'm noticing that our high mids are a little hot, and I'm also noticing that our low end could benefit from more energy. Let's solve both problems in one move. First, I'll use the new band solo feature to see what's contributing to that energy. I'm hearing hi-hats and percussion, and I know that those reside on the DR1 track, which is a group track that has a neutron EQ on it. So I'll search for it in the tonal balance control drop-down menu and call it up. Now, if an iZotope plugin is inter-plugin communication compatible, I'll be able to see it in this menu. Let's make some changes to the EQ from tonal balance control to get that percussive energy in check. And I can do that without ever leaving this window, thanks to inter-plugin communication. That's much better. In addition to my EQ moves, I'm going to bring down the gain too on that bus by using the output slider, which controls the output level of neutron. Let's now compare tonal balance control's energy readouts before and after we made that slight adjustment to the percussion track. What do you notice? Well, we have much more energy in our bass now. We didn't add any bass energy, but this is because the high end from the hats and claps was masking low end energy. With energy removed from the high mids, the lows can now breathe a little more. So as you can see, in just a few moves in tonal balance control, we can make a positive change to the overall energy of the mix or master. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to check out our other videos and head to iZotope.com to learn more about mixing, mastering, and to download your free trial of Ozone 9.
Welcome, Torsten Rich Wimmer here, and I'm stoked to be sharing my favorite new features added to iZotope's latest release, Neutron 3. Now, I've been a power user of Neutron since its initial release date, and these two new features definitely don't disappoint. Specifically, we'll be looking at Mix Assistant, which analyzes then organizes your tracks by type and gives it a quick mix down. And next we'll look at Sculptor, which is a powerful new spectral shaping tool. Let me give you a quick sneak peek of both. First, I will be showing you how in about 10 minutes I used Mix Assistant to mix the track very, very quickly and take it from this unmixed hot mess to this. And don't be fooled, the louder one is not better. We're aiming to mix, not master. So again, we're not going for loudness. Next, I will show you how I used Sculptor to enhance the high frequencies of this drum bus. Here's before. It's definitely a subtle effect, so you want to use quality speakers or some quality headphones. Let's jump straight in. So whether you receive the track as a session or a track as stems that you drop into a new session, the very first step is still the same. Organize everything and name all of your tracks. I've done this already so that we don't have to do this and take up all of your time together. But I have the drum bus, which is controlling all of the drums together. I then have a musical bus, which has all of the melodic and harmonic content bussed together, so we could control them together if we wanted to. Similarly, the vocal bus has both the primary vocals and the reverb inside of it. And then finally, we have some various effects, some percussive effects, some swoops, some sweeps, etc. Now, what I want to do before I start listening to the track, ironically, is I want to drop an instance of Neutron 3 or Relay onto the various components that I want to control. So either I'm going to place it on a bus or the individual instruments inside of a bus, but not both at the same time. Here's what I mean. I want to use Neutron 3 to control the drum bus. I also want to do some actual mixing inside of the drum bus using compressors, EQs, etc. So I'm going to use Neutron 3 as opposed to Relay, and I'll come back to that in a moment. Once I drop an instance of Neutron onto the track, I'm going to name it Drum Bus. We'll use 2 S's in this spelling just for kicks. If I did not want to mix using compressors, EQs, etc., I just wanted levels and pan to be controlled by the visual mixing process, I would use Relay. Now, the musical bus, I want independent control of these instruments because I have a bass in here, I have various types of melodic and harmonic synths. So I'm going to drop Relay on all of the instruments that just have pan and level. Let's do blip. And I will continue the process very quickly and fast forward through. But again, I am naming all of these as we go. Now we are on to the vocal bus, which I want to use an instance of Neutron since I actually do want to do some mixing with compressors and EQs. But for the effects, I just want control of the levels and pans, so I will use an instance of Relay. Again, to review, if you just want to control the level and the pan, you want to use Relay. If you want to control the compression, the EQ, and do the level and the pan quick mix feature of Neutron, use an actual instance of Neutron 3. Now that we have everything labeled and named correctly, again, that's absolutely critical that you name every single instance of Neutron, we are ready for the next piece of the puzzle, which is adding Neutron 3 Visual Mixer to the master track. Here we see a white oval in the middle of the interface. This is actually a stack of ovals which represent the pan and level of all of those instances of Relay and Neutron 3 that we just created. I want Neutron to do the heavy lifting for me, so I double click to place those back to the center. And I now click Mix Assistant at the top. I'm presented with some instructions that I'm about to give you, so we'll skip that and click Begin. And now we choose which of the instances of Neutron 3 or Relay that we want to include into this process. So we have the bass, the blip, the effects, the pad, high and low synth, the vocals definitely. The drum bus, we did want that, but we have here drum loop mixing. That was an instance that I added previously to shape the drums before some other effects are added, etc. This is not one I want to use for the automatic mixing feature of Neutron 3, especially since we opted to use the bus and not the individual components inside of the bus for this process. But we see that Begin Listening is grayed out, and even though I'm clicking, nothing happens. We have to choose at least one track to be the focal point. So in this case, maybe we want the vocals and the low synth, since the low synth is acting as a vocal melodic part during the sections that the vocals are not playing. And now I'm able to click Begin Listening. We want to start from the very beginning of the track every single time and play all the way to the end. And this is where I would do my first critical listen of the track while Neutron is also doing a critical listen and doing a rough mix for me. Using some studio magic, again, we have fast forwarded to the end of the track so you don't have to sit through that entire process. I now can click Go to the Results. And here we have the rough mix that Neutron created for me. Let's take a listen to what it did. It's much quieter. It's not terrible, but it's not exactly what I'm looking for. I noticed as well that I don't have an independent control for the voice. I did this on purpose to show you can edit the classification of something if either you get it wrong, in the case that I chose the vocals to be a focal point manually, or if, for example, it chose to have the pad as the bass. Clearly the pad is not the bass. This should live in the musical category. And my bass should be the bass. So here we now have a slightly different mix, and we can control all of the musical components together, and I have independent control of the bass and the vocals as should be the case. Let's take a listen again, and I'll do a quick mix with these faders while we listen. And we'll listen one more time. All right, so it's a good first step into the mixing process. Let's go ahead and click accept. And now we see that the ovals are in different positions, again, corresponding to the level of those individual instances of neutron or relay. And now I can continue to refine the process a bit if I so choose. Once you do a rough mix and it's kind of sounding okay, create a snapshot by clicking one of these plus icons. So now I have snapshot A, and I can dive into the mix and change things to my heart's content, make some really big, risky moves, and I can always get back to this mix. Let me show you what I mean. Here's mix A, and we'll move further on in the song. And I'll make a bunch of changes and we can come back to mix A anytime that we want. So let's pan the drums, change the effects. I mean, it's going to sound completely awful. Big, risky mistakes. Make some risky moves. See what you like. Oh no, it's horrifying. I could save this if I want to come back to. I won't. But I can click A and I go back to that original mix. This is a really easy and convenient way of getting a fast, risk-free approach to mixing. I really appreciate the visual nature of the mixer, and especially in terms of the pan and the levels, but I really appreciate the fact that I can come back to my original and save a few different versions of the mix in terms of level and pan, of course, and come back to that using this interface. Now, by way of a transition to our next subject, which is Sculptor, I do want to highlight that Mix Assistant is not unique to the visual mixer. If you're familiar with older versions of Neutron, Mix Assistant was actually for mixing individual tracks, not the entire song, and we're going to do that right now. And first I'm going to get rid of this drum bus plugin because I don't like what it's doing. I want to use Neutron for that process. And I'm going to click Mix Assistant. We now have two options. One, Track Enhance, which we're about to use. And two is Balance. If I were to use Balance and click Next, this starts the process over that we just did. So you can access that version of Mix Assistant from Neutron 3, any instance of Neutron 3, not just from the visual mixer. However, I want to do Track Enhance. I will click Next. I choose the type of instrument, which is drums. I want the style to be upfront and a high intensity. Let's go ahead and click Next. While Mix Assistant does its thing, I'll take this opportunity to remind you, if you are enjoying this video, take a moment and subscribe to the Warp Academy channel and ring the bell. We have tons more content coming that you won't want to miss out on. So we have an instance of Sculptor that was added at the beginning of our effects chain, followed by a number of other audio effects. This is where you generally want to put Sculptor. So let's take a step back and discuss what is Sculptor. Sculptor is a spectral shaping tool. Basically what this means is we're taking the entire frequency spectrum and we're breaking it up into a bajillion tiny equalizers. It's not a real number, but think of it like that. A number of little equalizers all over the spectrum. So as my drum audio enters the input of Sculptor, it's analyzed, and then the individual EQs are turning themselves up and down, trying to pull my sound towards a target profile. In this case, we chose a drum profile. We can choose a bass profile, or the all-purpose, we could choose add punch, and this would pull the sound towards a target profile differently. It would sound different for each one. So let's take a listen to what this looks like and sounds like. I'm going to turn the volume down so I can talk over the top of this. We see that it's boosting the bass a little bit, and up here it's actually boosting the highs significantly while it's turning down the mid-low frequencies quite a lot. It's very subtle, so if you're not using headphones, you might want to grab some headphones. But let's take a look at what the tone and speed parameters are doing as well. Notice that as I push tone up, we hear the highs are now in focus, and when I pull down, the lows come into focus. It's drastically changing the curvature of our target profile. Therefore, it's massively changing the output. Next, I can choose how quickly those individual EQs respond to my incoming signal. And finally, let's say I'm happy with the lows. I really want to focus just on sculpting the high end of this track. I can drag these to indicate specifically where I want Sculptor to work. So now Sculptor is ignoring the lows entirely and only sculpting the highs. This can be really useful if you want to enhance a specific frequency range of a track, for example, vocals or a violin. Finally, if you would like to play about with this session, we are providing it as a free download. Simply follow the link in the video description. Also, check out warpacademy.com for more tutorials, downloads, and of course our web store where you can pick up your own copy of Neutron 3. Peace.
Out of the blue, Isotope just dropped a new reverb. It's called Neoverb. It's intelligent. It's packed with features that no other reverb has, and it sounds pretty great. Let's take a listen to it. Hello everyone, welcome back to MixFest TV. Hope you're having a great day. Before we start, please check the info box down below for my mixing courses on ProMix Academy, free plugins, special discounts and offers, and the link to the plugin that we are seeing today. And if the videos are helping you, you want to support the channel, but most important now, if you want to access to the all-new in-depth mix and mastering courses and videos here on the channel, members only content, click the join button down here. See all the perks of becoming a MixBus TV member, which includes mix consultations with me via Skype or email. Let's get to the video. I wasn't expecting Isotope to drop a reverb, so I was very excited when I saw it. In short, this reverb has everything that you can possibly need before and after a reverb, and the algorithm themselves sounds pretty damn great. It's powered by the exponential audio reverb engine, which is well known to sound pretty great, and it really has a lot of great features, including this reverb assistant, this intelligent algorithm that analyzes your audio and gives you suggestions for your pre-EQ and your post-EQ. But that's not all of it. Let's take a look at it. The first thing that we notice in the GUI is this 3D triangle here, which is the blend pad, and it allows you to morph between three different algorithms: top, bottom left, and bottom right. Here on the left, we have three types of reverb, and each one has different algorithm. We have reflection room, the first one, small space. And then we have a plate or a medium chamber for the second, and then a hall or a large chamber for the third. This is already cool because most times we use more than one algorithm on a source, a vocal, a guitar. And instead of opening three different sends and put three different kinds of reverb on them, you have them all here in one plugin, and with the blend pad, you can morph to one another. The first thing when I saw this was automating the blend pad. This allows you to create very complicated chain of effects very easily in no time. On the top right, there's a modulation section with an XY pad. You can see for rate and depth. We have the pre-delay below that can be in milliseconds or sync to your host tempo. Next to it, we have the smooth function, which helps smoothing out the reverb tail. A dry wet knob, and at the bottom, the pre-EQ and the reverb EQ. With a simple 3-filter parametric EQ, you can adjust this manually, or you can use the reverb assistant. So first of all, let's hear it in action on a simple piano. The sound of it is pretty cool, and the blend pad works really well. There's no artifacts. It blends perfectly between the 3 different algorithms. Let's take a look at the Reverb Assistant. This basically analyzes the incoming audio and it suggests you a pre-EQ. All right, so let's click on it. Here, just like other plugins from iZotope, you can decide the style and you can blend between realistic and dramatic. So I'll leave it at dramatic. The size from extra small to extra large, I'm gonna leave it at large. And the tone, you can have clean, dark, bright, or airy. I'm gonna leave it clean and I'm gonna click next. You see there are 2 actions, the auto cut, cleaning up input signal by creating custom pre-EQ curve, and then comparing wet and dry signal to create custom post-EQ curve. Again, instead of opening one EQ before, one EQ after, you have everything here. Let's accept and see what did it do. You can see here the 3 nodes on the EQ, and you have a slider to decide the amount of the cuts. All right, so let's play it. So it cleans up the signal before hitting the reverb, so some of the frequencies are not overexcited. And then we have the reverb EQ, so the post EQ. This is also called unmasking, as we said in the Reverb Assistant. Basically analyzes the incoming signal and compare it to the wet signal, so the reverb signal, and cut it so that there's intelligibility.